Hey everyone!
Hey everyone!
Hey YouTube, I'm here.
Hey everyone!
This week on the Unexpected Fellowship,
I'm going to be telling you guys part 2 of this week's story.
But the catch is that
I have not heard the first 3 parts of the story.
I have watched yesterday's video.
Let's just start.
Quoi?
here's my story. Once upon a time, in the distant land of Montreal, a punk rock legend was sleeping profoundly after a night of post-concert debauchery. "Wake up!" said her roommate, opening her door violently. "I just won 2 tickets to go try out the new time travel machine." She had in her hand 2 shiny pieces of paper covered in sparkles. "What? But I haven't had my daily dose of crack and heroin yet," said our protagonist, half awake. "It's okay, we'll do it later. Right now, I just want to go punch Hitler in the nuts," replied her roommate. "Fine." The girls then put on their studded leather jackets and headed for the Science Research Academy to claim their prize. "Fuck you, I hope it's worth it," said her protagonist, casually as they walked towards Stephen Hawking's. "I can't believe I'm awake before 3 p.m. on a weekday." "Welcome, girls," he said with his computer voice as they approached. "Please hop in my time machine." "Whatever," they replied, and sat in the close confined wired-filled pod. As they were sitting, the door closed on them. They could still see that a few scientists were walking around and pressing various buttons through a tiny window. Their vision got blurred, and the next thing they knew...
They were somewhere in the 17th century. "Where the hell are we?" yelled the protagonist. "I'm pretty sure Hitler isn't this old." "Well, the thing is," the roommate said, "the time machine is just in its trial phase, so we never really had a set destination." "Are you insane? Why would you ever agree to that?" the protagonist shouted back at her roommate. "I just want to go on an adventure. Now stop complaining. Let's explore. I don't think we're in Montreal anymore," the roommate replied. The girls started walking towards what looked like a village. Everyone was staring at them cautiously and backing away at the same time. "Why is everyone looking at us like that?" said the roommate. "It must be our clothes. I guess they don't like studded leather jackets," the protagonist replied. "Maybe we should try and go somewhere else. I don't think we're welcome here." "I agree." Just as they turned and started walking back to the time machine, Bodies by the Sex Pistols started playing. Everybody in the village quickly turned towards them. The protagonist quickly checked her pockets and found that the music was coming from her phone. The people in the village had gotten closer to them. The roommate looked around terrified. "Quick, we have to get out of here. They don't look so happy." "Witches!" yelled someone in the crowd of villagers. Everyone jumped on the bandwagon right away. "Burn them! Witchcraft! We have to get them!" "Run!" shouted the protagonist and the roommate at the same time. They ran as fast as they could despite their killer hangovers. They kept running until they hit a dead end. They turned around and...
They kept running until they hit a dead end. The protagonist looked around helplessly. Meanwhile, the roommate was thinking. "Quick," she said. "Pass me your hand sanitizer spray. I have an idea." The mob approached closer and closer, and the roommate lifted up her lighter and the spray menacingly. She said, "Stop, or I'll burn you all to cinders." And she sprayed a few quick times to show that she was being serious. The mob didn't really react, stepped a few steps back, but then one of them laughed heartily from the crowd and stepped out, taking off their spectacles and a cinder box and a vaporizer filled with alcohol. Did you really think that would fool us? Come on, guys, let's go home. They're not witches, they're weirdos. Idiots. There was a huge sigh throughout the crowd. "Aww, looking forward to our first witch trial," said one child, holding onto his mother's skirt. "Let's go home. Maybe next time will be our lucky day." Both the protagonist and the roommate started laughing hysterically, relieved that they weren't going to be burnt on a stake. "Well, that could have gone a whole lot worse," said the protagonist. "Yeah," said the roommate. "At least your adventure didn't end up with us being lynched. Let's go home." So they left the creepy, dark, dead end and turned the corner onto the main street where everything was bustling with activity and lots of foodstuffs. The protagonist looked at the roommate and went, "Are you sure we're done here? I think we should really go visit the
Waffle House. So they were hungry, right? Because they had just been running away from the mob. And they're like, okay, cool, let's go to the Waffle House. So they went to the Waffle House. And it was a very special Waffle House where they only served cheesecake waffles. And now the protagonist had a little bit of a lactose thing, so she was eating the waffles, right? But then she kind of had to poop. So she went to the bathroom, but it was not a normal bathroom. Nope, the bathroom was actually made of glass. It was like a glass bathroom, but it was like a one-way mirror, so she could see like all of the people outside, and she was just sitting there, you know, pooping, and then like looking at the people outside walking around, and they just saw their reflections, but she saw them, right? So she was sitting there watching all the people and, you know, pooping away, and she could see them eating their little cheesecake waffles and like munching on them, and like they had like strawberries on the waffles and like honey waffles and like blueberries and chocolate chips. And she was hungry, but then she also realized that she was pooping. And so it was just like she had this metaphysical moment where she was thinking about like eating and pooping, and it was just full circle of life. So then she started to think about her favorite movie, The Lion King, which was also about the circle of life, and she was like, wow, magic. What is life? Right? So then her friend knocked on the door, and she could see her friend through the glass of the door, and she was like, oh look, it's my friend. But then she looked behind her friend, and she could see that there was a murderer. He was running after her, and he came up behind her, so she freaked out, and she like jumped off without even fixing herself, and she threw open the door and saw her friend and saw the murderer behind her. And it was a very comical situation because there was her standing in the room in the doorway with this look of holy shit on her face, and then there's her friend who doesn't see the murderer, she just sees the protagonist, and she's like, oh shit, what's going on with the pants situation? And she had like, it was like she had a little bit of like toilet paper stuck to her butt, and then there's the murderer behind her who's like, and then the protagonist was like, oh shit.
So she pushes her friend out of the way to protect her from the murderer, and the murderer is coming at her. And luckily she was really practiced in the art of Taekwondo, and as everyone knows, Taekwondo is like karate, but for the feet. And this would have been really bad if she were wearing pants, because as you know, she was pooping and her pants were still like down. But luckily she was wearing a skirt, so she could just easily lift her foot out of the skirt, and she bitch slapped the murderer with her foot. And as this happens, a lot of disgusting fluids flew onto the murderer because she didn't have the time to clean herself after defecating. As the murderer got all the disgusting fluids on him, he started melting on the spot. Of course, the protagonist and her friend were shocked by this, but what they didn't realize was that every other guest in the Waffle House was also a murderer like this one, and they started coming at them slowly but surely, and they weren't actually human. And their indication of that was how the first murderer was just melting in front of them. She says, hey, obviously crap is the way to deal with these people. So she tells her friend, I know this is disgusting, but we just gotta throw my turd at them. And, well, it was a matter of life and death because they were kind of coming at them with like all the knives and forks from the waffle place, and they were like, rah, 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 rah. And so that's what they did. They started throwing turd at the people, and they all melted. They melted completely, so there was like nothing left. At that point, the protagonist had gone through so much So the protagonist falls down and she's like, this has been such a hard day, I don't know how to cope anymore. Like, she'd just gone through like all this like weird emotions, from like panic to fear and all kinds of like heroic actions. And then she was sitting in a Waffle House and she was thinking about being hungry and pooping and the circle of life. And then she had to throw dirt at a bunch of creatures that wanted to kill her friend. And her friend put her hand on her shoulder and said, "It's okay. It's okay that you feel this way. You're only human. And good riddance, look at these people. They weren't human. Let's go take a bath. Let's go take a bath and wash away all this crap. Let's forget that this ever happened." And then they kissed. A passionate, passionate kiss. After all they'd been through together, it was inevitable that they would fall in love. And they went and they took that bath and they got out of town. They got out of the country. They moved to a distant country, got themselves a home in the countryside, and lived together with an inevitable, very, very weird fetish that I will not go into, and lived there for the rest of their lives, doing good.